have problem with unworthiness and insecurity inside myself. This wasn't a problem before, like when I was younger. I used to be I didn't care what other people think, but slowly what happened was other people, what they thought, and the way I looked around just kind of made me feel insecure, and I feel kind of powerless because it feels like I've been born with things that I can't change, like what I've inherited from my parents. So I have this desire to do well in sports, but I have this belief that genetic-wise I don't have the ability, even though I do well at it, but it feels I can't take it to another level, if you know what I mean.
Well, it's certain that you cannot take anything to an expansive, fantastic level if at the basis of that which you are is a conscious awareness of unworthiness. We think it's a wonderful thing that you acknowledge that you are feeling sort of unworthy. We want to talk about what that is and why, and more important, what to do about it. So there's a lot we want to say to you, so just relax, and we're going to sort of unravel this in a way that you can really hear it. You said some really interesting things. First of all, you've come to a sort of conclusion that you must feel, or that you do feel, unworthy. And you've come to that conclusion based upon the way things are sort of turning out. Doing okay, but not as dramatically okay as you want. You also said something that was interesting and very common. In fact, almost everyone experiences it to some degree. And that is, in the beginning of your experience, you didn't feel that way. You felt more invincible, more sure-footed, like you could do anything. But then that feeling of confidence eroded over time. And the reason that it eroded over time is for a very simple reason. We're going to lay this out for you in a way that you will really see it. It's because you and almost everybody else you know, they're all doing it to some degree. You let what others were thinking about you and what they reflected back to you, you let that become your opinion, not realizing that they're not really holding you as any constant, steady object of attention. In other words, it's not their job to hold you. It's not their job to buoy you. It is the job of Source. It is the job of your inner being, and it is happening. But if you're looking for that love in all the wrong places, you're not going to find it. And it's a very common thing to look to those that you are living with for their appreciation and their approval, when what you're really wanting to do is feel your way into that alignment from the Source within you, who is always there, ready to cheer with you, ready to acknowledge the value of that which you are. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does.
So
it's just hard though, because everywhere you look, it sort of it affirms the unworthiness, if you know what I mean. If you turn on the TV, I don't know, it's sort of like I'm stuck with a vibration that I can't change. I try really hard to change it as well. I try finding better feeling thoughts, but what happens is I just go straight back to where I started off with.
Well, you have to do it a little bit at a time. And you're right, we've talked about this quite a bit, and it certainly applies here, that most people are offering the majority of their vibration, which equals their point of attraction, based upon what they are observing. So when you say, everywhere I look, so what happens is, because you feel a certain way, that's the vibration that you're offering. Because that's the vibration that you're offering, that's what comes back to you. As that comes back to you, it confirms the feeling that you had, which causes you to offer the vibration more. And then, so in the example that we gave about Esther with the car hitting her car, same sort of thing. She's been feeling off her game. She's been feeling less strong and less secure than she has felt over time. She's been feeling sort of vulnerable. That feeling of vulnerability causes her to say things that are not things that she would normally say, caused her to rendezvous with a near accident, which she normally wouldn't rendezvous with, but given this new vibration, so here it comes. Then she commented about what a close call it was. And even though nothing happened at that intersection, under the bridge, entering the freeway, nothing happened, she found the words that said, if that guy who did that thing that he shouldn't have been doing had hit that other car, then likely we would have been involved in something even though we were innocent. So now here she is. She was feeling it. Now there's evidence. Now she's commenting on the evidence. Now she's feeling it more. Now she parks her car innocently in a parking lot, and while she's in the grocery store, someone hits her car. So now, see what's going on. So she was feeling that way. The manifestation confirmed how she was feeling. Now she comes out, and here is something she really doesn't want. There's a girl crying. Her father is there. He's enraged. The car is smashed into her car. Now you're observing something more. Now you're observing it. Now you're having a knee-jerk response to it. In other words, it's like letting what is control how you feel. But the question is, when did it start? In other words, when did this chain that led to that start? And the bigger question that we're really wanting you to hear is, what was the chain really leading to? In other words, what did it actually lead to? Eventually, Esther felt enough discord from it. When Esther got really, really mad at that sweet little girl, that's when Esther started rethinking it, because that's not who she is and it's not what she wants. She did not want to stand in that place of blame there. So then another intention kicked in, because whenever you know what you don't want, what you do want is part of the equation too. So in this story that we're giving you, at some point along the way, Esther made a decision that she was no longer happy feeling bad. And as she visited with us about it, and we helped her to see, this is not evidence of your vulnerability, this is evidence of your invincibility. A few years ago, some physicians were coming to a seminar. They always flew. They had their own private plane. And one day, they got into their airplane. They actually were landing at the airport near where they lived, out in the desert. And they misunderstood the direction of the wind and came in from the wrong direction. And their plane flipped over and caught on fire. And they'd been listening to Abraham recordings. And they asked us after, a week or two after, Abraham, our little girl has been listening to the recordings with us, that we create our own reality. And yet, when this has happened, she's confused. What do we tell her? Because our plane flipped over and caught on fire. None of them were hurt, just some very minor scrapes and a little bit of burn on the leg. And we said, this is not evidence of your vulnerability. This is evidence of your invincibility. Can you see what we're getting at here? In other words, who crashes a plane and walks away from it? They did. It's evidence of invincibility. And so this is the thing that we're wanting you to hear. So let's walk back through this again. First thing that happens is that you've got a feeling going on, and it doesn't matter where you got it. Esther had a feeling of vulnerability going on. It doesn't matter where she got it. The fact is, there it is, which is leading to light little experiences that are unwanted. Now, when those light little experiences that are unwanted come, she has the option of making another choice of thought. But the motivation wasn't very strong. It was easy to complain. It was easier to observe what was going on than to remember who she really is and to try to observe it through the eyes of her broader self. So she weakly observed it in a way that did not serve her. And so it's not like the universe is teaching her a lesson and saying, well, if you didn't like that, then you're really not going to like this. But it sort of plays out that way, doesn't it? So then she had a choice to think a different thought, but didn't. And so then law of attraction brings her something else that sort of matches that. What we really want you to hear in all of this is that you are always on your way to something wonderful, even when you are not enjoying where you are. Some years ago, we said, it's like going through a bad neighborhood on your way to something really fun. In other words, there is always something good that is out there if you will allow yourself to live it. But the feeling of vulnerability that comes, or the feeling of unworthiness that comes, is the simple byproduct of observing what is and just taking it as reality, just taking it as a done deal, rather than saying, well, this may be what is, but I choose to see it in a slightly different way. So At what point do you decide to turn it around for yourself? You have to decide. For Esther, she didn't turn it around when the first near miss happened. She didn't turn it around. She could have. She didn't even turn it around when the car buried its nose in her car. She didn't turn it around. She let what was happening in the moment dominate the way she felt. She felt angry. She felt blameful. She felt vulnerable. She felt like not a good deliberate creator. She let what is control that. But as she sat with that emotion for a day or two and felt the awfulness of it because it so defies who she really is and what she really knows, then she began reaching for another way to see it until she came back into her power. You see what we're getting at? You have to decide at what point you're going to come back into your power. You can't let the circumstances that are surrounding you be the basis of your vibration. That really is what deliberate creation is. If people are just walking around, and most are, observing what is and offering a vibration that matches what is and then getting more of what is and then saying, see, I told you, and then creating more of what is and then observing it and creating more of what is and then observing it, creating more of what is and then observing it, it's no wonder then in time you begin saying, I'm not powerful. Somebody else must be doing this to me because I would not do to myself these things that I do not want. But what we can feel with those like Esther and those like you, when you begin finding things that continually make you feel less than the powerful, authentic, pure, positive energy being that you are, it gets old real fast. And after a while, you begin saying, enough of this. I am determined that I am going to reclaim my power. And when you make that decision, it's always there for you because everything that you've been living has all of this queued up, ready to deliver to you at any time. It's why you got chosen here today. In other words, the desire that you are holding, you're lighting up out there. Your desire caused a spike in your energy that was muted by your lack of ability to see who you are. But you were close enough to the clarity of who you are that you were visible in a big way to us.
I try really hard. This desire is really strong. When I do get negative emotion, it's very extremely strong. That is sort of like rage, if you know what I mean. And I try my best to just turn it the other way.
You know why? But here's the thing that we want you to acknowledge. If you sort of want something and it's sort of not happening, you feel sort of uncomfortable. If you really, really, really want something and it's really, really, really not happening, you feel really, really, really uncomfortable. So all you are expressing to us here is the power of your desire, to which you have more ability to align than you are giving yourself credit. In other words, you can do, and so can Esther, you can do a better job of lining up with who you are, moment by moment by moment. But here's the thing. When it's little things, there's no motivation, so you don't do it. It isn't until something bigger happens that it gets your attention and makes you acknowledge, I can do a better job with aligning with who I am. There isn't anything that you want that you can't have. If this time-space reality has the wherewithal to deliver the desire to you, it has the wherewithal to deliver the full-blown manifestation of it with no exception. You will not be denied anything that you desire. So if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would say things to ourselves such as, I'm just defining who I am and what I want, and I'm going to do a better job of holding myself in happy alignment with it as I go along. There's nothing wrong with rage. It's just simply an indicator that you're not in the vicinity of what you want. But as you stand in that rage, all that happens, as you stand in that rage longer, all that happens is that you parlay stronger and stronger desires. So you know what you don't want and you know what you do want, but you don't line up with it. And so you keep observing what is, which you don't want, which causes you to launch more rockets, but you don't line up with it. But you keep observing what is, which causes you to launch more rockets, but you don't line up with it. So the crevasse, the variance, the gap between where you are and who you've become gets stronger and stronger. And that's that tension that you are defining as rage. You got to turn in the direction of what you want. And we want to help you do that by convincing you that you can have all of that. You've just got to let go of the conversations about it not happening.